everyone hear me? Great. All right. My name is Holly Troy. I'm with the City and County in Denver. Welcome to the city. Hope you can all breathe. If not, there's an oxygen bar over there. All right. Can I get a show of hands? Who is using ServiceNow right now? Great. Hold those hands up. Who's using the REST API Explorer in ServiceNow? Oh, okay, good. All right, who's using Graph API? Anybody? Anybody? All right. All right, so just to let you all know, this will move. There we go. This QR code will be at the end. Sanitized code, my email. Don't worry, you'll be able to download it all. It's on my Git repo. I stuck up there last night. We are not going to talk about my 12 seasons in Antarctica at McMurdo Station, which is a small mining-like town that's very cool. We are not going to talk about the savings that the city has had in the past year. $1.4 million, 22,000 hours saved. We're not talking about that. What we are talking about is the problem. CrowdStrike sends an email to a service account, and each email contains a user that I've got to find. It's for compromised accounts. People like to use password 123. I don't know why. Anyhow, Ansible once an hour is going to do the following. It's going to grab the email, processes it by Graph API, and then we're not going to talk about PowerShell or AD. That's a whole other topic. But my sanitized code has all that in there. Then we're going to move those messages, mark them red, into an archive folder, and then any unmatched accounts are going to be sent to security with a task. So for those of you who like visual, that's the Visio diagram. I've been using Visio since, I don't know, 98, last century. Anyhow, so that's the problem. And now as we dive in further to see what the pieces are to get the job done, is you're going to need your Azure admin to create an application for you and get delegated and application permissions. I have those, not a problem. You're going to put your app secrets in your favorite vault, or in our case, secret server. Now for the challenging part, you're going to need your ServiceNow folks. And I don't know if anybody's had trouble with the length of time it gets things done with ServiceNow, but it can take a little while. But in the sandbox environment or dev or test, you're going to want REST API Explorer access. That is your friend, like me, because I'm sure everyone's going to want my email after this. Now once you have your ServiceNow access, you're going to want to get a service account set up, and that's key, because you're going to want to be able to update, close tickets, all that stuff. So now we're going to get further down into what we need. So again, you're going to get with your Azure admin, you're going to create an app, and with that you're going to get your tenant ID, your app ID, you're going to get your secret, set that secret not to expire for at least 2 years, I think that's the max, and you're going to set a calendar reminder, because you will forget. Then you're going to want to set delegated permissions on your app. Now that is really important. Now, you can see it's kind of small, kind of a little unreadable. Don't worry, you'll have all this to be able to download in a little bit. So once you have all that, if you haven't noticed, I have a gray beard. I've been around a while, and so I happen to like curl. Curl works great. It works with Ansible, but it's not as readable as URI. So if you look at this, if it's readable enough, you can see that, oh yeah, that makes sense. We're using client credentials, we're using a form URL encode, and it just works. And anybody can follow that versus curl. Now the nice thing about curl, I can use jQuery and bring out the token and set it as a fact. Anyhow, it just works. So let's talk about documentation. Microsoft's pretty good. I used my favorite search engine, said, give me mail folders. I can then get to Microsoft's documentation on mail folders, and it's going to give me a list of everything I need, such as permissions. In my case, I'm doing an application and I need mail read basic all to read the mailbox folders so that I can find the inbox. And that documentation also tells you what you're going to do. I'm going to do a get. So that get translates into an URI, very straightforward. I have a fact for the mail account, get mail folders. Now, if some of you are sharp enough, you might see, wait, why am I capturing 404? Don't I want it to fail? No, I don't want it to fail. I want it to continue on because I can capture that stuff later and do something with it if it's failing. And I don't know about you folks, but I am heavily invested in debug. Debug is everywhere. I think there's even a song about that. Elvis is everywhere? Anyhow. I use debug to whittle down what I need to set my fact. So in this case, you'll notice in my query, I'm actually searching just for the inbox and I'm grabbing the ID. And then I set that fact. So one of the things I just wanted to show real quick is this is the email message that comes in via CrowdStrike. So I have to do some fancy regex to extract that data. So the subject, and I don't know why they picked this long subject, but hey, you can URL encode it, and I send it, I grab the inbox, I'm grabbing all the messages. Now the one thing that's interesting here is I set the top 2,000. Why? Because I'm lazy. I don't know if anybody's done this, but when you start to deal with Graph API, they sometimes only like to give you 100 things at a time. And then you have to go to the next page. Now the next page is encoded with the @ symbol, or so it's like @OData. So to reference that, it's pretty tricky. That took me a while to figure out. So I grab the mail, and so here we are. We skip all the PowerShell stuff because that's a whole nother subject. And we're going to move those messages. So, since we have the messages, we're going to set a fact for all the message IDs. Then what we're going to do is we're going to batch them, because I found that when we first implemented this at the city, the number of people who had passwords that were on a compromised list was in the thousands. And your Graph API token will expire before you get them all. So I set it to a batch, and then I loop through a task called Graph Batch. And all that's going to do is get a new token, and then I'm going to start marking the messages red. To mark them red, and then again, this is part of the demystification, all right? You're using URI, and you're using very much the same thing over and over again, and you're just setting up your URL. So I patch it, yes, it's red, and I'm going to move it to the inbox. Now again, we've already gotten a list of all the folders, and that's easy to find because we're just using a standard account, so inbox and archive. Now, we've done all that. Now comes the fun part, ServiceNow. Now, Red Hat has their ITSM ServiceNow module, and it's great. I just started using version 2.5 for CMDB relations. I'm able to find the relation, but I can't delete, but that's a whole other story. And at the city, we use tasks. Now, I don't create incidents. I don't do change. I need task. Task doesn't exist in ServiceNow, ITSM module. So, again, everything you need is actually in your interface. I just want to kind of cover this a little bit because sometimes you might not have the access you want. But I'm picking on a person, Tyler Zimmer. I've got a task. I can see about the record. And in the record, I can see that he lives in the sysuser table, and there's a sysid. So I can get a lot of information that I can use if I'm trying to hard code or find an individual. Now, you can also find the department. And sometimes, you know, as you start digging into ServiceNow, everything's a sysid. And sometimes I like to use human readable stuff, you know, because I'll never remember the sysid numbers. Again, as you hover over everything, you can find the record number, find the table, and find the sysid. Now, I was shown this about 3 months ago. In Chrome, you can get this tool called ServiceNow Utils, and it is a game changer. What it does, it lets you see the variables for each of the fields. That's a mic drop for me, because trying to know what variable is for each field is damn near impossible. So this, yeah, and of course the ServiceNow team has known about this for years, and they just told me about it. So I love my team. They are on it. They use Agile. We use Kanban. You know, Kanban, just get your stuff done. They use Agile. Agile takes months. Anyhow, so here I've got an animated GIF kind of showing you the REST API tool, the Explorer. This thing is your lifesaver, because you can get in here, look at the table, start to do a query. In my case, I'm using my name, Holly Troy. I hit search, and then there it is. I can find the JSON data. So, what's cool about this is, it's like, okay, I've got this data, now what can I do with it, right? How can I incorporate what I've just learned in REST API Explorer and use it in my Ansible code? Well, if I stop wandering around with my animated GIF here and scroll to the top and do something with it, I can actually click on curl, grab the curl, and convert that to URI, and that makes it really straightforward. Or if you want to use Python, you can do that. ServiceNow is really good at giving you that information. So again, you know, going back, you know, showing another example of the REST API Explorer, you can actually use it to build out your JSON body for creating a task, and then using that to get to the curl code example, and then converting that to a URI where you can actually get some information out. And again, it's really straightforward. Once you have your instance that you need, the parameters are really straightforward. I don't know if you have anybody on your ServiceNow team that can actually do any API stuff. They'll probably look at you with a, you know, blank stare on their face, like I used to do with my kids. You know, how's that working out for you? You know, but again, it's ServiceNow, and you need the access. Just put in a ticket, and then have your manager work the problem to try to get you the access. So again, going back to creating that ServiceNow task for security, it's like you can create this task and you can fill out all the pieces for it. You know, but what I've done is I've created a role with our CCD collection, which is just snow create task, which makes life really simple. My coworker Justin, he uses this. Our intern uses it. My intern that works for us, he didn't know how to do it, but looking at the documentation in our Ansible hub, figured it out. So I specify the instance, specify the short name, the description. I set the assignment group because security doesn't have enough work. Give them more, they'll give you back more. You know, the CMDB CI is CrowdStrike, the business application, and in the work notes, I actually can put in some HTML code so that the compromised users that weren't found out of the AD are in a nice little table. So, did that make it pretty clear for everybody? Are you demystified? Or are you confused? Anyhow, how about you just grab my email, grab a copy of the code, grab the PowerPoint presentation, reach out to me ask questions. My Red Hat person is around here. There they are. They know that I love to evangelize this stuff. So always happy to reach out and talk to anybody, anytime. Well, not anytime. It's gotta be when I'm free. So, and then wait. But that's it, folks. If you have any questions, I'm up here. Hopefully this will help you out.